Okay, can everybody hear us okay? Okay, Kula says they can hear us.
Oh, I forgot my little buddy outfit. Hang on a second.
We sound normal. Well, that's good. I'd rather sound normal than abnormal. Can you hear me pounding away on my keyboard as much today?
Oh yeah, type, 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 type.
Okay, sorry.
Is
Um,
this thing on?
yeah,
Can you guys hear me?
yeah, it's cute. Okay, so they can hear us both. They can see us both. Hi, Z-Mage. Um, oh, there's Prickly. Be ready for some throat punches. Welcome to episode 1 of a new thing that we're trying out called Tips and Tricks Live. Um, being on the DA chat, that's Dimension Addicts at Deepwood, that chat channel, you hear a lot of questions um, come out over the course of each day. That's just um, a lot of building stuff. I get a lot of flack because I spend a lot of time answering questions, but you know what they say, knowledge is power. And joining with me today is Alanai at Wolfsbane. You may be familiar with some of her work. She created that fantastic Phoenix in Thousa's Waste for the Summer 400 contest. You can say hello.
Hey, I also did a big ass dinosaur.
Yeah, and she did a big dinosaur.
Oh, whoops. That's my gimme.
So, like I posted in the articles, if you're very advanced, if you have a lot of advanced techniques that this is probably not going to be very helpful. However, um, everybody does things differently. They build differently. They take a different approach to things. So, you know, I can only teach how I do it, and then but some things, it's more effective ways if everybody's on the same page. Um, we're going to start out today. What's the hardest part about dimension building to you, Al and I?
Um, Nothing. I'm pro. I got it down now.
Okay. Well, the hardest part.
Actually, just figuring out what tune you're on so I can ask you to help me.
Well, the hardest part for me is getting started. It's when you come into that empty dimension, like say I'm going to come out here to the middle of nowhere in anywhere, and I'm be looking around and there's nothing out here. So the hardest thing for me is not even the plan. It's just, how do we get started? The very first things I like to do are to kind of, before I set, anything else down, I want to set my atmosphere and start creating my environment. So today, um, I'm really going to start out focusing on environmental effects. Not even so much rocks and stuff like that, because that's all part of the landscape, and we'll talk more about that when we get to actual landscaping, but the actual environment, the things that we surround ourselves with, your sky projectors, your time of days, um, terrain paints, stuff like that, your environmental effects, some water effects. So you can see I've got a little bit of a selection of water things here. By all means, ask questions. Please ask questions, because um, I don't necessarily know what kind of questions people would ever want to ask until they're asked.
I will
Um,
do my best to keep track of the chat. So if you guys have anything you want to say or see, let me know and I'll pass it along.
yep. Now I am also watching chat, so if she doesn't catch it, chances are I probably will. I'm not going to get rid of the Twitch delay because I want to. With Twitch delay, if you turn it down, people with low power systems tend to get a lot of buffering, and that would defeat the purpose. So let's go ahead and get started right here. I don't have any time of day in. I don't have any kind of effects going on. This is just a blank anywhere. I like to use, I won't give up a dimension for storage, but I will keep this one always for testing things out. I'll come out here and I'll make things like if I'm trying to make people, I'll make people in here because there's no distractions. We'll be moving to Methosian Cascades in a little bit to talk about mushrooms, ground razors. Is it choppy? Because I'm... Oh, okay. So before I get started with anything else, I'm going to drop a sky projector down. Now, sky projectors are one of the few environmental effects that stack. It depends on... Now, sky projectors are, when they stack, they're really interesting, and you might not always know how well they're going to stack. If you're trying to, say you're in Kestrel's Cry and you want to get rid of the snow. This is a Nightmare Saga sky projector. And how...
And by stack, do you mean with the effects that are already in the dimension, or alongside a time of day?
Like, say, when I'm talking about stacking projectors, what you can do is, like, say you want to get rid of the snow in Kestrels, but you want to look at a certain other sky. You can put down one of the projectors that will cancel out weather effects, like this one. The Nightmare Saga will block weather effects. Fire Sky will block weather effects. Space Sky will block weather effects. Starry Night, a couple of others, they will all block weather effects, and then you can set another projector on top of it. However, caveat to that, a lot of times when you zone in, you'll see two different things when you zone in. Even two different people zoning into the dimension at the same time can see a different effect.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like some old tricks, you know, from like way back in the day when we had Kestrel's Cry and we had projectors that would get rid of weather effects, but we didn't have weather blockers back then. So, you know, you wanted to try to game that however you could. You get rid of the snow because a lot of times you don't want snow in your house or whatever you're building there, but you do want to build in that kind of snowy environment.
Yeah, I wish I'd have known that when I had entered into the Cozy Cottages contest.
Yeah.
The dimension I used, it was like the rain
Mm-hmm.
all around, and no matter what I did, no matter what projector I used, out of like the fire, I think it was a fire and water. It, for some reason, it still had the squall in the background, and I just ended up going with it. I didn't know that there was something I could put down to completely get rid of that effect.
Yeah, there are some projectors that will get rid of weather effects, and if you only use one, like now that we've got, what, 33, I think, sky projectors, it's a lot more reliable now than it used to be because you can pretty much get away with one, you know, one projector. Like Starry Night, you know, that's really easy to adapt your theme to go, it'll be nighttime in my build. Except for, I did not bring a Starry Night with me because, as you can see from my horrible bags, they are full. But this one, the Space Sky, is pretty much the same thing as the Starry Night. So you can drop it down and it will get rid of weather effects. However, and this is something that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, Starry Night, Space Sky, they have a fixed time.
Hmm.
Conquest Sky Projector, what that is it sets the time to noon. And that's always going to be the default time. If I do a slash time in here right now, it says the time is 12 p.m. So it's absolutely dark, but the things that come on at night, like these windows, don't come on. Yeah. So that's where I would need to then um, drop a time of day so that night only lights will come on. Now, sky projectors don't so much have a radius. There's one sky projector that has a small radius, and that is the River of Souls. Most sky projectors don't, but time of day has a small radius. So for a dimension like anywhere, if I want to use this whole thing, um, I would need more than one. Now, time of days, music boxes, things like that, they don't stack.
Wait, you mean you can use more than one time of day?
Yes, caveat that. They don't always work reliably when you do that.
Okay.
Um, so, I get a lot of people that comment that most of my builds are small. And yeah, they are small, and some of that's just my personal style of building. A lot of that is just because um, some things only have so much of a radius, like time of day. Time of day radius is about roughly 250 meters.
See, I never knew they had a radius. I thought you could use one projector, one time of day.
No. Music boxes, time of day, those all have a radius, and it's actually not that big. However, comma, it does work on a volume. So it's also not just the radius around, but it's also the top to the bottom.
So if you were building vertically, it would have a radius that way as well?
What's that? Yes.
Okay.
Yes, like some of these elevators that I have over here, which is past the draw distance, um, uh, when I go up, will be outside of the realm of the time of day. But since it's dark in here, you'll never know unless I have lights up there.
Ah, that's cool.
You can cover most of it anywhere with the time of day, but you're not going to cover the whole thing. I'm going to mount up and fly out here. And you'll notice as soon as you hit the boundary of the well, actually in here you won't notice the boundary. If I had a sky and a time of day, you would notice it. So let me get rid of the projector.
This is the exact projector that I used with Grimlock for the specific reason that I was afraid that the time of day would glitch out.
Yep.
I didn't know if I put down a couple, I'd have a better chance of it working right.
Well, your Grimlock was also in a relatively small area too, so you probably could have gotten away with. Yeah, Master Quack is pretty much like a cylindrical thing for the time of days and music boxes. Okay, well, it's not when to do it. So I'm going to go back over, and here's where you can see another problem that often comes with building on a large scale is with the draw distance. And that's draw distance. That's a whole nother pain in the butt. So yeah, if you have a dark sky projector and you want it to light up, then you're going to want to use the time of day all the time. Yeah, Alejandre says, I thought time of days were always just buggy since the example in the zoo. She has a Castle Fortune zoo that is really, really big. The range is like 20 meters. In some places, I've noticed that they work a lot less reliably than in others. But it's, I mean, you really just gotta, I hate to say this because what's the point of a tips and tricks if I'm telling you to experiment? But, that's a lot of times how we learn with things is to experiment. Now, you should be able to, if you're outside the radius of the first time of day, you should be able to drop a second one.
Well, now they have a little less experimenting to do.
And that should TM work. Master Quack says, is there a way to force draw distance in rendering for high-end systems? Unfortunately, no. The draw distance, I'm going to pop open my settings here. Under Video Advanced, if you, like mine is maxed, which in theory should be, I should not ever have an issue at all with any kind of draw distance. Max draw distance in game, no matter what kind of system that you run or no matter what your settings are on, max draw distance is only something like 175, 200 meters or 200 game units, which equates to 1 meter. So the only way to force a draw distance is to kind of cheese it. You gotta like blur and obfuscate views. I don't know how else to put it. You know, if I put some trees, if I run out to the max draw distance that I can see, and I drop some trees down so that that draw distance never becomes too much of an issue, then that's one way to fudge that.
Is it almost like you're kind of bringing the horizon in a bit?
Yeah, I mean, you got to create what you want people to see.
That makes sense. Like I
Um,
do that with the Ashura Mountains because they're so big and I can use less of them.
yeah, but their
Kind
draw
of,
distance is really bad. The draw distance on Ashura Mountains, the bigger the item, it seems like the closer it has to be. Like I have a lot of issues with the Ashura Mountains, um, the glaciers, the great big glaciers.
like the ice ones,
Yeah,
or oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, those great big ones. A lot of times they'll not render right away um, if you get too far away from them. And then you can see, like, I do a lot of cover ups. Then you can see like pieces of the base dimension sticking out that look really ugly. Um, Master Quack, I don't know who Master Quack 14 is. He says one thing he always, and I don't know if it's a he or she. I'm just gonna say he.
It's my brother.
Oh, that's your brother. One thing I always notice is that with large objects it will render, but not smaller objects that are actually closer. Yeah, sometimes that happens. Um, so draw distance in itself, in ways to get around the draw distance, I mean, that's almost a full hour by itself. You know, of how you can shape the landscape, because you want to shape the landscape to force people to see what you want. I think nothing will ruin immersion faster than bad draw distance. Does that make sense?
Now, back to the projectors.
Uh huh.
If we were wanting it to be dark, but we didn't want it Space Sky dark or River of Souls dark, we just wanted it to be nighttime. There's I'm going somewhere with this. I had that problem with a couple of dimensions, and from touring some of yours, you used the a projector with a time of day
Yes.
and it was still the same projector. It was just it changed the hue, like it changed the colors. Oh, you just did it. There we go.
Well, this time I put in a sunny day, and then I was like, well, that's dumb. Because sunny day is the exact same sky that's already in Anywhere.
Doesn't sun? I think it has the stars though. Does Anywhere have stars at night?
Yeah, because you're looking at the base sky for Anywhere right now.
Okay, well if you did this in another dimension, you would get the Anywhere sky basically.
Pretty much, yeah. So, I mean, like, the only thing that would really help with using, say, Sunny Sky in a dimension like this, or like Castle Fortune, or Fane's Retreat, all of those pretty much use the same sky. The one thing that they don't have in common though is how much ambient light already exists in the dimension. And by ambient light, I mean like sometimes when you use a projector, or even if you're in a base dimension, some dimensions are a lot brighter than others are.
Like using Enchanted in a specific dimension, and then I put it in a Toulon, and it was like crap was glowing. I was like, why is
Yeah,
it so bright?
yeah. Um, it depends a lot on which base dimension you use, which is on which projector you'll use. A lot of times, if I'm starting a brand new build, I will go spend about an hour just swapping out projectors and winnowing them down. And then so a lot of times, halfway through the build, I'll be like, this light in here looks like crap. And I'll come back in and then spend another hour or so um, doing it. The thing with the projectors is that sometimes they also have their own ambient light. Like spring sky is a whole lot brighter at the ground level than sunny sky is. I like sunny sky, I like enchanted sky because they're dark on the ground. There's not a lot of crazy light coming up from below. Um, it's wow.
You're making perfect sense to me.
Okay.
I ain't said nothing because you
Yeah.
doing good.
I mean, like, all the projectors have different kinds of ambient light.
I mean, obviously, you're helping them out. You're giving them new ideas and tricks they don't, some of us don't know about. But the fact of the matter is, no matter how much anybody tells you, you're still going to have to play a little bit.
Pretty
Find,
much.
find the mood that you're going for.
Pretty much, because the projector is going to react with different lights in different ways. The ground is going to react with different projectors in different ways. Um,
Your building blocks are going to look different in different light.
Sarah asks if a time of day works in a fixed time of day. I'm assuming like a fixed time of day dimension like Endless Eclipse or Edge of Affinity or any of the others that have a fixed time of day. And yes, time of day will override that.
Hmm.
With the same caveats that it would have in any other time, is that it's going to have that set boundary. Like, I'll use the time of day because one of the things that drives me nuts with a dimension like Edge of Infinity is it's dark there, and I love the sky there, and it's really gorgeous there. But when I put down something like a house, um, none of my lights will come on because it has a fixed time of day of noon.
Oh, Cold Sprite made an excellent point, and this is something I do as well. She said, I usually just build with Always Sunny up. And when she's mostly finished, she puts the projector she wants in there and tweaks. And I do that as well. I'll kind of, figure out beforehand what I'm going for, what colors I want. But while I'm building, I'll put something bright in there so I can see what I'm doing. And
Yes.
just, periodically switch them out to make sure everything is looking right with the tones and the colors that I want.
Yep, and that's where it comes in with everybody builds a different way. Um, I like to set my atmosphere at the beginning and then just kind of deal with it. I built a dimension with pitch black not too long ago, and I'll tell you what, I'll never do that again because it was freaking dark.
Well,
It was freaking dark.
I'm guessing that's what the name means, but
Yeah, yeah. When they said pitch black, they weren't kidding. And I mean, I had just lights strung up um, from one end to the other so I could see what I was doing, but I wanted that pitch black in there so I could always remind myself of the atmosphere I'm trying to set.
yeah, that's a good idea.
And sometimes in a dimension that has weather effects, um, I'll keep that dark sky in there because the weather effects irritate me more than the darkness does. And then, I mean, there's all kinds of environments that are challenging to build in, and one is extra dark, another one is underwater. I would not wish building underwater on my worst enemy ever because it's the distortion that water creates. Um, just really makes things extra challenging.
Don't be scaring nobody off now.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not. Uh, so about time of day, I think we covered pretty much everything with the time of day. It will override a fixed time of day. Um, Friend pointed out how dark night sky projector is. Actually, okay. Um, I want to comment on effects underwater. In fact, let's go check out one where I used an effect underwater. And this is not to plug my own work. Um, uh, this is just to demonstrate an effect. Uh, the problem, I like using Polyp Promenade for building underwater because the sky is nothing but unobstructed water. And it's the same thing in Shadow Scion. If you bought that one pack for Nightmare Tide, Shadow Scion also has the sky of all underwater, and Shadow Scion has a higher ceiling than Polyp Promenade. And in here, the green bubble is pretty much right there. You might be able to see some of the wavering effects where it's right above my head. Um, so there's not really any give. Now, one thing about water is the entry point. An entry point will never bug out if it's in water, because the water itself will catch you if you start to fall. But you can make effects work in a water um, you can make effects work in a water environment. However, they have to come up on dry land um, to see the effect underwater, and underwater will kind of inverse the effect. Like I have a sunny sky projector in here because I
So you
don't.
need to have the projector above water. Is that what you're saying?
No, you need to zone in above water or below the water or however um, before you go underwater to see
Ah, okay,
the
okay.
effect. And it's not going to be a hugely pronounced effect. I like it in here because the clouds, you can see the clouds under here and you can see the stars. You can see some of the effect, but you don't see, um, you wouldn't see it exactly like you would if you were in air. And some of that is going to be the underwater distortion. So that got way off track.
Hey, they asked, we answered.
So yeah, building underwater with effects has its challenges and tricks. Because like you're not going to see the moon under here. You'll see the cloud formations, which is what I really wanted to get under here with the cloud formations. But you won't see like the moon that you would see up above. Yep. Um, let's.
So we've done projectors, we've done time of day, we've
Mhm.
done a little of the underwater. What about terrain paint?
All right, terrain paint. Um, terrain paint is
You gonna come back hang out with
yeah.
me?
I'm
Just
coming
gonna
back.
stand underwater there? Okay, all right.
I'm
Because
coming
I'm
back.
all alone by myself over here.
I'm coming back. Okay, so I don't have all the terrain paints laid out here. I have some of them. I've got new ones and old ones, and they're mostly in here so you can see the difference in the effects. With the terrain paints, is the new ones meant that I almost had to learn how to work with them all over again. That's a weird shadow. Um, as now, this is one of the new ones. This is mossy grass. No, this is not mossy grass. This is yellow free march grass.
I
And
got some weird
this,
shadows too. Is this your little building over here doing that?
I don't think so. It might be coming off the. I don't know what's doing that. Um, yeah, any under. Cold Sprite asks if that underwater issue is also in Vengeful Sky. It's in any underwater environment. It's only going to show the default unless you set it to where there's a part where they can see your new sky first. I don't know if that made any sense. I hope that made sense. Okay. So terrain paints also work on a volume. Uh, Sparkling asked if the time of day I use to illuminate the windows is that having an effect on shadows. Could be the elevators. I don't think it's the time of day because I pulled it out so we could have daytime. In here, I always keep Let me
I
put
think
my,
she's right because the shadow's coming and going.
yeah, it's going to be the elevators, even though you really can't see it from over here.
Talk about some draw distance. You can't see the damn elevators, but the shadows are there.
Yeah, it casts an amazing shadow. Um, all the terrain paints work on a cylindrical volume, exactly like uh, time of days music boxes, but they're usually on a much shorter radius than those other effects. Um, Lady says she loves all the new ones and so using them everywhere now. I agree. Uh, Sarah, I agree about the Moonshade Grass too. I really like that one, and I like how certain lights, certain environmental effects make it look too. Um, and in some dimensions with set time of day, setting time of day will change the shadows. Yes, it will change the shadows because it's changing the direction that the light's coming from. So what I like about the new terrain paints is that their effects on building blocks and some rocks is a whole lot uh, it's a whole lot more subtle than the old ones were. Like this one here, you can kind of see it on this limestone block if you're right up on it. But if I come out a little ways, I'm not going to see it. Now you hear a lot of people talk about how they can't see terrain paints anyways. And there's one major setting that you need to have on for terrain paints to be visible, and that's your projected textures. If you don't have this clicked, then you're not going to see any terrain paint ever. Um, so you need to have that selected. For some other dream weaving effects, you want your spell detail turned up. That's going to be like some of the lightning vortexes, the motes, the things like that. That all needs to be turned up to be able to see those.
One thing I kind of noticed with these, and I swear these things they have like a little bit of, they're almost translucent. I was playing with the new terrain paints when they came out, the day they came out, and I noticed if I had, like, you've got yours here at a large size, if I put the same one like in the center of it,
Mm-hmm.
smaller, I could actually see the smaller one underneath the larger one.
Yeah, on the PTS, these did not blend well together. As you can see, they're shaded a lot more delicately, even than the old ones are. So that when I start merging this one with the one that's next to it, it actually transitions really well, and it blends really well, and it creates. I mean, I love the way that these blend together now. You're not going to see that, say, if I try to take this one and merge it into this life paint, just because of the way that the life paint and
Mm-hmm.
the desert work. Now, the thing with these new ones is that blend line being so significant, um, kind of makes it a little bit more of a pain in the butt to work with, um, because you'll you'll see it like I don't want it to be visible on this block at all. With the old paints, you could just take it and push it way, way down, and then you would get it to where it's not showing up. Now, when I look down on it, you don't see the grass effect on the sand, but you can still see it touching that block.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you start moving it up, so that kind of makes it a little bit more of a challenge to figure out how to get it to work effectively. I know I've used it in some Sanguine Shores, and that's where now you can scale. That's where that will really come in to get a limited area. Yeah, let me just reset this rotation. And there you should be able to get it. Oh, got her trapped in a.
I look away for 1 second.
So now looking down, you can kind of see how far that blend line comes out from just the edges. And that's not even counting the vertical effects.
Which makes it really hard now to creep the terrain paints up.
Yeah.
I've noticed I'm like, it's so much harder to see where that line is. You just got to make little tiny adjustments to get it right.
Yeah, but that's where also the scaling comes in handy now. Um, yeah, grass works on Ashora. Actually, the Ashoran rocks, the Duskin rocks, and some of the other stuff like corals, they do take terrain paint of any kind. So if you want to, say, make a mountain range that's covered in snow, hey, some Ashoran rocks or Duskin rocks are going to be a really good way to do that. Um, Unfortunately, with a lot of terrain paints, you'll see the draw distance on those shortened as well. And it's not, it's all just something. I look at dimensions a lot. I'm just going to get sidetracked again here. Um, I look at dimensions a lot like a set of problems to solve. Um, you know, I mean, I could sit here and I could just complain that stuff doesn't work exactly the way I want it to work, so, or I could learn how to deal with it effectively. Now, one thing I do like about the new paints also is that on some of these smoother blocks like stone, limestone, some of the woods, is that those stripes don't really stand out. But say I want to use, come over here, and I want to create an effect with the mossy brick. The textures that are on that brick are really going to start picking up that paint, and it's going to add a lot more than is already there. Now, I've been pulling out.
I think you're maxed on your items here.
No, I'm
Oh,
not.
no, never mind.
Oh no. Yes, cold spray. Some of the pumpkins do take terrain paint. I did not know that um, until I did my build for the morphing contest because I used desert paint on everything. And that's when I found out that the foggy pumpkins took paint. Exactly, Worley. If something looks wonky at a distance, throw some bushes down. Throw some bushes down to change where people are looking. I mean, that's the easiest way to do it. And, Diva gives me a hard time a lot because I'll be like, shit, just throw a bush over it.
I'm all about those evergreen shrubs and those leaf canopies.
Yeah. Now, some of the terrain paints actually do scale much larger than the others. As we all found out, I think last week, this is the desert paint, and it's freaking huge. But desert paint and snow paint are probably two of my favorites. I like the stripes that snow paint or desert paint gets. And this is going to be a really good one to see that hard volume. Give you an idea how tall these paints get. So if you are wanting to create like stripes or something like that, it becomes really, it can get tricky with how you want to create your building effects and rocks. And I brought out, this is underwater life paint, desert paint. And this is Crucius. I get Crucius lace and Crucius breath kind of mixed up sometimes. They're not used a whole lot. Even though the Crucius lace can make some interesting patterns. And then the one that doesn't really make any pattern at all on any vertical face is going to be the Crucius breath.
Yeah, you can't rotate it, nothing. I tried working with it. I said, you know what, you're going back in the bank.
Yeah. I love Crucius breath terrain paint. I love that rolling effect. But without being able to rotate it, actually, I don't know, because I could resize it earlier. But I don't think any of the, yeah, you still can't rotate it. And none of the paints are supposed to be able to rotate. Now that lady says now that paints can scale, I can actually pull out more than half of those I used in Desert Rose and add some details. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is a pretty nice thing about the terrain paint change, because I know I use a lot of some of the paints for um, building accents. Snow paint on certain building blocks really kind of makes it pop. Um, that's why I use snow paint a lot. And the bigger paint does make a difference. And now that the paint effect is gone from these things, that just really means that these are useful again. That's all the fire petals, death spines, all had their terrain paint effect removed with this week's hotfix. I know when I first came in here after the hotfix, after 3.7, um, the paint from these flowers at max scale just kind of covered half of this half of this dimension. So terrain paints are projected textures on, um, spell detail up, especially with other effects. Spell detail isn't really going to have too much of an impact on terrain paints, but it will on motes, lightning, some lights, um, and then just keeping in mind that terrain paint works on a volume, so that you might have to shift it a lot to get what you're trying to do more effectively. And Deskin rocks, corals, um, Ashoran rocks, all take paint. Whew. Is it time for a moth?
It's time for a moth. Y'all say something in chat, because I'm about to give away a moth.
Yeah. No, as far as I can tell with the prickly with the pinatas, I don't think they take terrain paint, but I don't know. I put mine in a planetarium, and they're inside some of my planetary bodies, so I didn't see them ever take the paint. But the spheres do, and spheres interact with terrain paints in really interesting ways. Christ, these bags are my bags. Want to buy bigger bags.
It's like too bad you didn't have somebody come in here with you to help you out today that maybe had a little extra bag space. Guess we'll have to plan that next time.
Yeah. Without spell detail up, you won't see the sparkles. Well, the bags being big enough, if there weren't 11 billion different new types of building blocks that I absolutely had to have, I would have more bag space. Yeah, I'll do.
I think you just got excited. I want to show them everything today. Everything that they ever wanted to know, I'm going to show them today. So you
No,
brought everything with you.
I. I brought my bank vault with me. I'd be glad I don't open that up, because then everyone will be like, "Oh, how do you find anything?" And it's highly organized chaos. Exactly. Hey, congrats, Marth.
Y'all talk about me having some hacks. Done fished up like 20 bracelets. She got a snail. Now she got a moth.
That's all right. Um, so we've got a little bit of time left. Were there any other questions about environmental effects? Because we didn't even touch on like lighting, um, all my piles of water crap here, um, entry points, PvP ports. I mean, just the amount of stuff that we can do, now compared to what even like 2 years ago is just amazing, you know. Wha-
We're gonna have a talk with Nightbot.
yeah, he has a problem with you.
We're gonna have to set him straight.
Well, if you follow his rules, then he wouldn't have those problems. I'm just saying. So I brought water effects out. I hadn't really planned on talking about water effects this time because that in and of itself, water features would be like an entire 3 or 4 hours. I love water effects, whether it's fountains, waterfalls, streams. Um, I've become really, lately, I've become really trying to concentrate on how to make a good stream, like running water. What did we give away this time?
I said I was giving away another moth,
Oh, well, congrats, Tessiara.
and Nightbot was
Sarah.
like ruining the hype for me. I was trying to do it all sneaky though, so I didn't interrupt you. Sorry about that.
Okay. Problems figuring out the front and backs of waterfalls. Yes. There's not really any good way to work around that. You just have to like waterfall is always going to look different depending on the angle that you're viewing it. Um,
Well,
so
we talked about this. Let me stop you there, because we had a discussion about these waterfalls, and the truth is that we could talk about waterfalls for the entire duration. So, if you want to start now, by all means. But personally, I say let's wait till next week or the week after.
okay, because the best way to deal with waterfalls, I'm just going to mention this real quick, just real quick, is to manually switch it based on the angle where most of your viewers would see it. Um, Even if they come and hit it from the sides, they're still going to see parts of it. Uh, but yeah, waterfalls, and this is a massive one, and it's just not. I personally don't care for the massive curtains because they're too big and the tops don't look the tops don't look realistic to me. Yeah, you can do that. You can set the waterfall base down, but sometimes you'll see that a an item's coordinate point is different than most other items, and then some items have coordinate points that are like not on the item. Um, for things like this, I suggest keep spamming with bug reports because this being way down here makes these windows a whole lot harder to work with. And it's pretty much all the windows have this. Swords on a Chain have some weird, funky collision issues. Yeah, lady, that was the plan to have water features and effects be its own tips and tricks because there's a lot of different things to cover as far as water effects go, whether it's because there's all those different kinds of water effects that you can create, whether it's a natural setting or a fountain or whatever. Yeah, the royal curtain thing. They actually fixed that. Um, they fixed the stage curtain sparkling so that it's a lot easier to manipulate now. And then I noticed in DA chat this morning on the NA side there were a lot of questions today about custom pivot. That's going to be its own thing too. Once we really start talking about Tinker Tools and add-on usage. I do most landscape shaping without an add-on. I do that by hand. Yep, terrain paint is scalable now. That is a pretty awesome thing.
I was like, I was gonna get these moths passed out,
And then
and
there
actually,
are some. Oh, I'm sorry. There are some building blocks that don't take paint, like this one.
you don't have to answer him. I'll tell him later.
Well, unlike some people, I'm actually kind of nice.
That's because they don't know you like I know you.
Huh.
All right, so if you guys have any other questions, feel free to send her a message. Which tune would you prefer to be contacted on? Fiendish?
No, not actually. That's the good way to not reach me is to send it to Fiendish at Greybriar. Um, I do things on her. I've started collecting artifacts on her because I got so many bolts, not ribbons but bolts. um,
Okay, well, you
so
can message me then.
Baradera at Greybriar is my main.
Okay.
Um, I'm on her a lot, and if I'm on what you call it right now. Uh, if I
But that's your builder tune, so you probably
yeah,
won't see messages.
Whatcha is my builder. I do see messages on her. Um, I'll even answer them every once in a while. My forum name is Fiendish. Um, my username pretty much everywhere is either Fiendish or Fiendish1. Um, yeah, the new terrain paints don't scale as large as the old ones. Um, like this life paint here, I was goofing around with it earlier. Life paint is not one of my favorites. I do like the underwater though. Underwater is what I always used to use for grass. This thing is huge. And all the stuff that's on it, like all the fern stuff, also scales now, so that gets big. So if you're ever using, yeah, Baradera is my username on Dimension Addicts. So if you want somebody to blame for all those sets that are up there, that's me. Um, I totally had a brain fart.
Well, is there anybody else have a quick question? Because we've kind of run over, but I know that she'll sit here all day answering questions if I don't say something.
Do I think we'll ever get a barnacle terrain paint? You know, actually, that would be pretty cool. Barnacle shell, the pink coral. I would actually like. Um, I would almost like the pink coral. Some of the coral colors are nice. I don't necessarily like the way that they're shaped. I, um, but yeah, rocks are their whole thing. Um, yeah, well, I'm pretty sure we have a really good dimension team now with between Tacitus and Blazing Octopus. Um, these guys are freaking amazing. you know, um, just for like all the new stuff that we've gotten and all the new stuff that we're getting. Because I don't know if you saw the roadshow last week. We had Tacitus on. He said there's another big dimension item push coming at probably the end of August with more building block styles. And honestly, now my personal speculation is that we'll see metallic blocks then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hopefully we'll see um, metallic blocks. Oh, right quick, we have about 7 minutes left. I'm going to Shorty's Mathosian Cascade so we can talk real quick about mushrooms.
I thought this was 45 minutes. I didn't know it
No,
was going an hour.
it's always an hour. It's
Okay.
always an hour. Now, um, if you're building or whatever, or if you build a lot, one thing I like to do is I put all my alts on my builder's friends list. So I only have one tab to sort through. Shorty makes pink, Shorty bad, yes. So mushrooms come in 3 sizes. You've got the 5 meter, which is really small. Wow, this dimension is like killing my frame rate. Then you've got the 10 meter, and then you've got the 20 meter. So I haven't noticed these being as unreliable as they used to be. Um, as far as clearing grass. Now the only thing they'll clear is grass. So if you have those inconvenient trees, if you've got inconvenient rocks or an inconvenient entire building, um, yeah,
Entire building.
that's why I have never used Stoneflask Tavern, is because I'm too lazy to mess with that building. I know you can just cover it up. Um, lady asks if they've been fixed lately, and I don't know if they have been, but it seems like they have been. I've had a lot less problems with them lately than we used to have. I know when built, I moved one of my gardens from anywhere to Methosian Cascades for the limit, and because there's actually grass here, um, a lot of the the mushrooms didn't work, and I had all my ponds were swamps.
Now, I remember one time I was using these in, sorry to cut you off, but
Hmm.
if I think of it, I gotta say it or forget it. I was using these here in this dimension, Mathosian Cascades, and I probably put a good like 10 or 12 of them down, and it looked perfect. It was great. And I went off and did something, and when I came back, I could see grass again.
Yeah.
So, is that something that can be helped, or is that just going to be the way it is?
If you see that, I would submit a bug report because it should not be doing that at all. It should just be a consistent, you know, every time you come in and out. Now, one thing I have noticed, I'm just going to kick my settings up real quick. When you're in a dimension a lot, this right here, the multi single core and multi core, for the rest of the game, multi core works pretty well. In dimensions, you'll start having a lot of issues. You can start having a lot of issues with the multi core on. Like that's when your sky projectiles will turn blood red. Um, you'll see a lot of graphical glitches. Bug report it and then turn it off, and then because it's like the old green lip thing used to be. It's like instead of the green lip thing now being on your character, it's in your now it's in your dimension. So I go back to single core and then I uh, restart your system, and that should fix it. So did that answer your question about that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that way answered my question.
Okay. Was
That
that
shut me right up.
woohoo? Something worked.
Well played.
Yeah. Um. So you can't resize the mushrooms, and you can use them as little decorative stuff. Yeah, prickly the green lips and then blue purple capes. I had that a lot. I had the green lip bug really really bad, and it was kind of very annoying. I'm glad they fixed it. I'm glad they fixed it. I can deal with it. Um, Moving to a dimension because I really don't notice it unless I'm touring a lot or if I've been spending a lot of time in one, especially one that's heavy on effects. Yeah, I usually shrink the mushrooms or sink the mushrooms down into the ground too. And then one thing that you will might have an issue with, especially if you put the mushrooms in early, is when you have building blocks or whatever on top of it, it'll be hard to select those blocks. Yeah, because you can build above the grass if you want to use an entry point. Uh, Sometimes you'll see your entry points start to glitch out and bug out without any kind of. There's no support here to put under one, and entry points are their kind of their own thing too. So I think that's going to about do it for today. Uh, Alan and I should have told me to shut up when I really started talking a lot.
I've been trying for like 10 minutes. And then I found out we're going a whole hour, so I'm like, I'll just sit here and be
Yeah,
quiet.
yeah, we're always going an hour. Um, so next weekend it's back to the DTC Roadshow. We're off to Brissasaw. We're going to be on with Errol and the Talaran Railroad.
Thank you guys for coming, because if
Yep.
you didn't, she was gonna myrtleize me, and
No, I was just going to cry and be sad that no one
like,
wanted to see
it's all your fault. I should have brought Diva instead.
it. No, Diva's actually at work today, so sucks to be her. I'm trying to do like the articles and break it down into smaller sections that make sense. If you have topics, please, get in contact with me. Get in contact with Al and I. Um, we're more than happy to talk about anything and answer questions. Um, I think, what did we have planned for next time on the 13th of August? Was that
You gonna make me bust out my notebook? You really
custom
make me
custom
bust.
pivot, or was that any kind of other water effect?
I thought it was water effect, and it's whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Okay.
You had talked
So,
to me about waterfalls and all that.
all right. So it's fluid. Um, but thanks to everyone that tuned in today for the first issue of Tips and Tricks. Um, I was really nervous. So,
Oh, you did fantastic.
and when I get nervous, I blab. So thank you, and we'll hope to see you again next week for the DTC Roadshow. And I hope everyone has a good weekend.
Later, Gators.